Hey guys, it is Wingy here, and I thought what I would do is talk about one of my favourite horror films of all time, and also do a why you should watch, because it's an older movie, so if you haven't seen it, you should really go and check it out. From the title and the thumbnail, you can obviously tell that this is going to be about the 1982 film directed by John Carpenter. That is right, isn't it? Yeah, of course it is. Now bear in mind, I am specifically talking about the 1982 original movie, although there is a movie called The Thing from Outer Space, I believe, as well, from earlier. Now I've got to be honest, I'm not a fan of horror. I've never really been a fan of the genre, to be totally honest with you. Partly because I'm a pussy, partly because I don't really like a lot of the tropes that go with it, as in, you know, there was obviously the slasher stuff. You know, I don't like these horror movies that are just blood and gore, because I don't really find that interesting or scary. I just find it a bit stupid. However, The Thing stood out to me because not only is it a more psychological horror film, but it's also got a bit of a sci-fi twist in there as well, which obviously, as a sci-fi fan, I am going to enjoy it. But what I love about movies like this, and a lot of the films from around this time, or at least in the 80s, maybe late 70s as well, because obviously Invasion of the Body Snatchers, that's another one of my favourite horror movies of this time period. What I like about them is they use practical effects, and they use them to great success. That yes, they might look a little bit dated, but they look a hell of a lot better than movies from, say, the 90s or the early 2000s, because CGI was shit during those times. So to see actual physical props, it really bolsters the movie, even though it's not perfect. Like, the Thing in this movie, occasionally, in a couple of scenes, will look awful. Other scenes, it'll actually look really creepy and a bit weird, but in the way that I imagine it was meant to be. But even though this movie is about this thing from outer space that has come and will just transform itself into anything that it comes in contact with, even just, you know, a single bit of DNA, I think they say in the film, just that will result in someone becoming one of these things, becoming infected. And it's something that needs to be stopped, you know. Even though there is that there, the real horror of this film doesn't even come from that. The psychological aspect of this film and the entire cast of human characters not trusting one another, sometimes rightly, other times wrongly, is amazing. I wouldn't necessarily say that there's a lead character. I mean, you probably would say it was Kurt Russell, but you're kind of on board with it's almost like you're part of the team that's there in the Antarctic or the Arctic or wherever it is. You kind of feel like you're one of them, because it's like, well, has he been assimilated? And is he still him? There's moments throughout the entire film where it looks like somebody might be, and they're actually not, or vice versa. And that tension, particularly between the characters, is really what drives this movie forward for me and what really makes it engaging, because you just genuinely don't know who to trust. You don't know who to turn to. You don't know who's actually dead. You don't know where this thing is, and you don't know that, alright, well, there's a carcass there that of like this mutilated alien thing. We've got it, right? We've burnt it. That's it. It's done. But Terry over there is acting a bit funny. I don't know if there is actually a character in this film called Terry, but if there is, then, well, he's been acting a bit funny, hasn't he? What I really like as well about this movie that really increases the atmosphere and the tension is the music. Now, a lot of the time in John Carpenter films, his music, I mean, obviously Halloween is kind of an exception to this, although kind of isn't as well when I think about it. But anyway, the point that I'm trying to make is the music in his movies is very simplistic and simple. Literally, the music, or the main theme of The Thing, is bom bom, bom bom, which sounds like it's quite shit, but in reality it works really, really well. It sounds like a heartbeat, but it doesn't sound like a human heartbeat. It could be the Thing's heartbeat. That's what it's representing. And it's also representing like the fear in these characters, like what's going to happen next. Don't get me wrong though, even though the psychological stuff in this movie is what I think the strongest aspect, the actual Thing itself is fucking awesome. There's a couple of scenes in this film that I think are genuinely hideous in a good way, like in the way that it's meant to be. So there's the scene with the dogs fairly early on. I think it's like the first time that you properly see it as it is, or potentially what it is, because you don't really know what it is, it's just a thing. But when you see it like sort of mutilated and all these different like dog heads and like tendrils and tentacles that's coming out of it, it's really fucking grim. But again, the practical effects, I think, look fucking awesome. And then there's a scene later on where they're trying to do an autopsy, and then the thing just bites this guy's arms off, and again, it looks fucking amazing for the time. Like, you've got to put yourselves in the position of these people. Like, they genuinely don't know what this thing is. It's obviously an alien because they find the spaceship at some point, but at the same time, you can't actually predict where this thing is going to go, and it is disgusting. Like, it is grim. It can literally just 1 minute look like a normal human, the next it's just this weird blob with so many different mouths and tentacles and gloop and bits. Ugh. One of my favourite scenes in the entire movie is where they're testing the blood. It's a really good scene, and I feel like the entire tension of everybody kind of comes to a head in that scene. And obviously I'm not going to spoil it, but there's some mistakes in that scene in terms of what some of the characters do. One in particular makes a mistake, and it's a bit sort of like, oh, that was a bit unfortunate. But then again, you know, you also get that really cool scene where they put, I think it's they light the blood, don't they, or something like that, or they dip something in it. I can't exactly remember what they do now, which is annoying because I do love this scene. It's not really a jump scare because you kind of know that it's coming, but the way that the blood just reacts, and then the way that one of the characters, because it's actually the thing, reacts, is fucking awesome. I think the setting as well of closed off from the rest of the world. They're in like this cold climate that is not easily accessible. They, you know, they're surrounded by snow. They have to travel by helicopters. They're in this little tiny base, really. The fact that they are trapped essentially in this place because they can't go anywhere. They can't risk. Like, one of the characters, I think they do a bit of research and they realise that, shit, if this thing was to get out, that's the world gone in no time at all. So they are trapped. They are quintessentially trapped, and I think a lot of the characters are in their mind thinking like, well, fuck, we've got to get rid of this thing, otherwise we're dead. The ending as well, I think, is brilliant. I think it's so good. Again, I'm not really going to spoil it for people who haven't seen it because this is a why you should watch. However, what I will say is the ending to this film is ambiguous. I know exactly in my head what I think it means. It's one of those endings that I like because it isn't a nailed on answer. It isn't just like, ah, well, that's what happens then. I like the fact that you as the audience get to think, oh, well, it could be this, or it could be this, or it could even be this. Like, some of the fan theories for the thing, and some people who literally comb through the movie and try and figure out, could it be that? Because this happens at this point, but you don't see this character for a certain period of time, so it could be that, and all that sort of stuff. I really enjoy that. I love the fact that this movie ends, and yet you can still talk about it. There's still debate to be had. It's a movie that never really ends, because we'll never get any definitive answer. This is definitely one of my favourite horror movies, and one of my favourite movies in general, to be totally honest. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say, this is the scariest movie that you are ever going to see, because it's not. It isn't. A bit chilling, though. It is a bit creepy in places. I love the tension and the atmosphere, and you know, you don't really get to know the characters that well, but you kind of get a general gist of their relationships enough to the point where you can accept that there is going to be this tension, and you do kind of feel bad that sometimes they get it wrong. Other times, like, that guy's no longer with us, all that sort of stuff. Oh, he was taken over, whatever. I do like that. I love John Carpenter's films, to be honest. I think he's a really, really great director. I think all of his movies are fantastic, to be honest. That I've seen, actually, because there's one that I know is proper shit. In the comments below, though, guys, let me know what you think of The Thing. Have you seen it? Have you not? Whatever you think, let me know down below. If you enjoyed this video, then make sure you leave a like on it. Subscribe for more. Social media and Patreon links will be in the description, as always. So if you would follow me on any of those things, and I would love you forever. But until next time, guys, you take care of yourselves. Goodbye.